I tightened the leash around Rover's collar as we set off on our usual evening walk. The sun was slowly dipping below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the neighborhood. The familiar scent of freshly mowed grass and blooming flowers filled the air, enveloping us in a sense of tranquility. Rover, my loyal four-legged companion, wagged his tail with excitement, eager to explore the world outside our front door. As we strolled down the quiet streets, I took in the sights and sounds of the neighborhood, feeling a comforting sense of belonging. The rhythmic sound of our footsteps echoed against the pavement, creating a soothing symphony. The gentle breeze whispered through the trees, rustling the leaves as if they were sharing secrets with one another. The evening was serene, offering a respite from the chaos of everyday life. As we walked, I allowed my thoughts to wander, reflecting on the day that had passed. The stresses and worries of school, work, and relationships momentarily faded away, replaced by the simplicity and peace that came with this leisurely stroll. I marveled at the beauty of the neighborhood, appreciating the well-manicured lawns and colorful gardens that lined the streets. Each house told a story, a unique representation of the lives lived within their walls. I couldn't help but feel a sense of connection to my surroundings, as if the community itself was an extension of my own existence. Lost in my thoughts, I absent-mindedly patted Rover's head, grateful for his unwavering companionship. He looked up at me with adoring eyes, his tail wagging furiously, reminding me of the unconditional love and loyalty that only a pet could offer. As the sun continued its descent, casting long shadows across the pavement, I knew our walk would soon come to an end. But for that brief moment, I allowed myself to be fully present, savoring the simple joy of this routine ritual. Little did I know that this tranquil walk would serve as a prelude to a storm of emotions and revelations that awaited me in the days to come. The peaceful facade of my life was about to be shattered, and the events that would unfold during this seemingly ordinary walk would set in motion a chain of events that would change everything. Rover tugged at the leash, veering towards a familiar building. It was my history teacher's apartment complex. I chuckled to myself, wondering if she was grading papers or indulging in some well-deserved downtime. The thought of running into her during our evening walk amused me. As we approached the apartment building, I glanced up and noticed a figure stepping out of her front door. At first, the sight didn't register, and I continued walking, assuming it was just another resident. But as I stole a second glance, recognition washed over me like a wave crashing against the shore. It was my stepfather. My steps faltered, my heart pounding in my chest. A wave of unease washed over me, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was amiss. My stepfather, usually composed and collected, seemed fidgety and rushed. His eyes darted around nervously, as if he were afraid of being caught. My mind raced, trying to make sense of the situation. Why was he here? What could possibly explain his presence in my teacher's life? Doubt clouded my thoughts, and an unsettling feeling crept up my spine. I had to find out the truth. Summoning all the courage I could muster, I quickened my pace, urging Rover to follow. We reached the entrance of the apartment building just as my stepfather disappeared around a corner, disappearing into the evening shadows. Curiosity consumed me as I stood outside the building, contemplating whether to investigate further or leave it be. But the nagging feeling that something was wrong pushed me to take action. With Rover by my side, we embarked on a stealthy mission to uncover the truth. We climbed a flight of stairs, moving cautiously, trying not to draw attention to ourselves. As we reached the second floor, I spotted my history teacher's apartment door, slightly ajar. My heart pounded in my chest, a mixture of anticipation and anxiety coursing through my veins. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the door open gently, revealing a glimpse into a world I'd never expected. The sight that greeted me would forever alter my perception of the people I thought I knew. And little did I know that this single moment of discovery would be the catalyst for a series of events that would unravel the web of secrets and betrayals hidden beneath the surface. Confusion settled in as I stood in the doorway of my history teacher's apartment, taking in the scene before me. The room was dimly lit, the soft glow of a table lamp casting shadows on the walls. It was a modest space, neatly arranged with bookshelves filled to the brim and a cozy seating area adorned with vibrant throw pillows. But it was the lingering scent of a different presence that hung in the air, mingling with the familiar scent of my teacher's books. The atmosphere felt heavy with unspoken truths and hidden desires, and I couldn't shake off the uneasy feeling that I had stumbled upon something I was never meant to witness. I scanned the room, searching for any clues that would provide an explanation for my stepfather's presence here. The silence was deafening, broken only by the faint sound of a clock ticking on the wall. Each passing second intensified my curiosity, driving me deeper into this unsettling puzzle. There, on a small side table, I noticed a photograph. It depicted my history teacher and my stepfather, their smiles radiant and carefree. My heart sank as I realized the depth of their connection. How long had this affair been going on? And how could they betray my mother, their marriage vows shattered by their deceit? Emotions waged war within me. Anger, disbelief, and a profound sense of loss. The image of my stepfather, once a figure of stability and guidance, had now been tainted by his unfaithfulness. My history teacher, the person I admired for her knowledge and passion, had become a part of this intricate web of deception. I couldn't ignore the truth any longer. My stepfather's presence in my teacher's apartment was a clear indication of their affair. The pieces of the puzzle fell into place, revealing a heartbreaking reality I never could have imagined. The weight of this knowledge threatened to consume me. I knew I couldn't keep this secret buried within, not when it had the power to unravel the lives of those I cared about most. Determination fueled my resolve as I made a silent promise to myself. I would confront the betrayal, seek the truth, and ensure that justice prevailed. With a heavy heart and a mind clouded by unanswered questions, I quietly retreated from the apartment, leaving behind the evidence of their illicit relationship. The door closed behind me, but the impact of what I had witnessed echoed through my thoughts, propelling me toward a path of confrontation, revelation, and the pursuit of justice. The weight of the truth hung heavily on my shoulders as I made my way back home. Every step felt burdened with the knowledge of my stepfather's betrayal and my history teacher's involvement. The familiar surroundings seemed colder, the walls echoing with the secrets that now threatened to tear apart our family. Upon reaching home, I found my stepfather sitting in the living room, his face etched with worry and guilt. He glanced up at me as I entered, and our eyes locked for a moment, the unspoken acknowledgement of what I had witnessed passing between us. It was time to confront him, to demand answers and hold him accountable for his actions. Taking a deep breath, I mustered the strength to speak the words that had been weighing on my heart. The room fell silent as I revealed what I had seen. The sight of him leaving my history teacher's apartment. His expression shifted from surprise to panic, and he stumbled over his words in a desperate attempt to explain himself. But his feeble explanations only fueled my determination. I had witnessed the betrayal with my own eyes, and no amount of excuses could erase the pain it had caused. Anger welled up within me, but I knew that a calm and composed approach would be more effective in this delicate situation. With a steady voice, I questioned him about his involvement, his motivations, and the impact of his actions on our family. The room seemed to shrink, the air growing thick with tension as I awaited his response. His eyes darted around, searching for an escape from truth he had tried so desperately to conceal. Finally, he admitted to his affair, his voice filled with remorse. The weight of his confession settled on the room, suffocating the atmosphere. In that moment, the reality of his betrayal became undeniable, and the boundaries of trust were shattered beyond repair. Emotions overflowed within me. A mix of anger, sadness, and disappointment. I struggled to maintain composure, to find the right words to convey the depth of my hurt. But amidst the turmoil, I reminded myself of the need for justice and the strength that lay within me. Firmly, I made it clear that his actions were unacceptable, that they had caused irreparable damage to our family. I demanded that he face the consequences of his betrayal and take responsibility for the pain he had inflicted upon us all. As the weight of the confrontation settled, the room fell into an uneasy silence. The truth had been laid bare, and the path forward seemed uncertain. But in that moment, I resolved to seek the support and guidance necessary to navigate this tumultuous journey of healing for myself and for the fractured relationships that needed mending. The weight of my stepfather's confession still hung heavily in the air as I sought solace in the days that followed. The shock and betrayal had left me grappling with a mix of emotions, trying to make sense of the shattered pieces of my family's trust. Amidst the chaos, I couldn't shake off the thought of my history teacher. She had played a significant role in this intricate web of deception, and I felt compelled to confront her as well. I needed to understand her side of the story, to comprehend why she had chosen to engage in an affair with my stepfather. Summoning my courage, I sought out my history teacher after school one day. The halls were eerily silent as I approached her classroom, the anticipation twisting my stomach into knots. Knocking gently on the door, I waited for her to invite me in. She greeted me with a mix of surprise and sadness in her eyes, as if she'd been expecting this confrontation. The heaviness of the situation lingered between us, unspoken words hanging in the air. It took a moment before I found my voice and revealed what I had witnessed. The sight of my stepfather leaving her apartment. Her face paled, her eyes filling with remorse and regret. In a voice barely above a whisper, she confirmed the truth of their affair. She expressed her profound sorrow for the pain it had caused me, acknowledging the betrayal that had ruptured the boundaries of her professional role and the trust I had placed in her. As she shared her side of the story, her voice quivered with regret and self-condemnation. She spoke of the vulnerability that had drawn her towards my stepfather, acknowledging the immense mistake she had made. In her sorrow, she too grappled with the consequences of her actions, realizing the impact they had on my life and the sanctity of the classroom she once presided over. It was a moment of reckoning for both of us. We stood face to face, united in the pain and sorrow that this betrayal had caused. While forgiveness seemed distant, there was a shared understanding that the truth needed to be revealed and the consequences of our actions faced head-on. Together, we recognized the importance of honesty and accountability. We vowed to confront the web of deceit that had entangled our lives, to reveal the truth to those who needed to know. In that moment, the weight of the secret began to lift, replaced by a shared determination to seek redemption and healing. As I left her classroom, the gravity of the situation settled within me. The betrayal ran deep, but the teacher I once admired had shown a glimmer of remorse and a willingness to confront the consequences. It was a small step toward unraveling the tangled mess of emotions and setting the stage for the next chapter, a chapter of truth, justice, and the pursuit of healing. The revelation of my stepfather's affair with my history teacher had rocked the foundation of my family, leaving behind a trail of shattered trust and fractured relationships. The weight of the betrayal pressed heavily on my heart, demanding action and resolution. Days turned into weeks as I grappled with the aftermath of this devastating revelation. The tension at home was palpable, each interaction laced with an underlying current of hurt and betrayal. It was clear that we could no longer ignore the elephant in the room, the affair that had torn our family apart. Summoning my strength, I decided it was time to confront my stepfather once again. I sought a private moment, away from prying eyes, to have a candid conversation. The room seemed to hold its breath as I spoke, my voice laced with disappointment and an unwavering determination for justice. I looked into his eyes, searching for any shred of remorse or accountability. The room echoed with silence as I awaited his response, knowing that the words that would follow would shape the course of our fractured family. He stumbled over his words, his voice filled with a mix of regret and self-pity. He attempted to explain the complexities of his choices, but his excuses held no weight in the face of the pain he had inflicted. His feeble attempts to justify his actions fell on deaf ears. In that moment, I realized that true accountability could not be achieved through empty words or hollow justifications. It required action. It required him to face the consequences of his betrayal and to take the necessary steps to rebuild the trust he had shattered. With a heavy heart, I made it clear that he needed to confess everything to my mother, to lay bare the depth of his betrayal and face the ramifications of his actions. The truth had to be exposed, even if it meant further unraveling the stability of our family. It was a painful truth, but it was a truth that needed to be confronted. The room seemed to hold its breath as he absorbed the weight of my words. He recognized the gravity of the situation and the irreversible damage he had caused. In that moment, the choice was clear: to either continue down the path of deceit or take a step towards redemption and healing. As I left the room, the air was heavy with uncertainty. The confrontation had laid bare the wounds, exposing the rawness of the betrayal. It was a pivotal moment, setting in motion the course of our family's future, a future that hinged on the actions my stepfather would take in the face of his wrongdoing. The road to healing would be long and arduous, but the confrontation marked a turning point towards truth, accountability, and the potential for redemption. It was a chapter of reckoning, where the consequences of the betrayal were brought to light and the path to rebuilding our fractured family was set in motion. In the aftermath of the confrontation, the weight of the betrayal continued to hang heavily in the air. The atmosphere at home was thick with tension and sadness, each passing day a reminder of the fractured bonds within our family. It was clear that we could no longer carry the burden alone. We needed support and guidance to navigate this treacherous path. I sought solace in the one person who had been the foundation of our family, the pillar of strength and love, my mother. With a heavy heart, I confided in her about the affair, sharing the painful truth that had been revealed. Tears welled up in her eyes as she absorbed the shocking revelation, her face a mosaic of disbelief, hurt, and determination. In that moment, the depth of my mother's love shone through. Her heart broke for the pain that had been inflicted upon us all, and she vowed to take action. She refused to let the betrayal define us, resolute in her commitment to protect our family's well-being. Together, we embarked on a journey of healing and justice. My mother, fueled by a fierce sense of justice, insisted that my stepfather confess everything to her. She demanded that he lay bare the extent of his betrayal, no matter how painful or difficult the truth might be. The air crackled with tension as my stepfather faced my mother, his face etched with guilt and shame. With a trembling voice, he confessed, his words punctuating the room like shards of shattered trust. My mother listened, her eyes locked on his, her heart aching with the weight of his words. As the confession spilled out, my mother's sorrow transformed into strength. She confronted him with unwavering resolve, demanding that he leave our lives for good. The boundaries of trust had been breached, and she refused to allow this betrayal to poison our future any longer. In the face of my mother's unwavering support, I felt a glimmer of hope. The pain of the betrayal had been exposed, and the path to healing was finally within reach. We were not alone in this battle. We had each other, a united front against the devastation that had befallen our family. With my mother's love and support as our guiding light, we would navigate the tumultuous waters ahead. Together, we would seek justice, confront the consequences of the betrayal, and embark on a journey of rebuilding. The strength of our bond would prove unbreakable as we emerged from the shadows of the affair with renewed determination and the promise of a brighter future. Under mounting pressure from my mother, my stepfather finally succumbed to the weight of his guilt and chose to confess his transgressions fully. The air in our home was heavy with anticipation as we gathered in the living room, knowing that the truth was about to be laid bare. My stepfather's voice trembled as he began to speak, his words laced with regret and remorse. He acknowledged the depth of his betrayal, revealing the extent of his affair and the pain he had caused. Each sentence struck a chord, the weight of confession hanging heavily in the room. Emotions swirled within me as I listened, a mixture of anger, sadness, and a flicker of empathy. It was a complex tapestry of emotions, tangled and overlapping as I grappled with the knowledge of the pain he had inflicted upon our family. In that moment, the truth had become a tangible entity, forcing us to confront the raw reality of the betrayal. The boundaries of trust that had once held us together had been shattered, leaving us to face the harsh consequences of our actions. As my stepfather's confession continued, the room seemed to grow smaller, the weight of his words hanging over us all. It was a painful reckoning, but one that needed to happen in order to pave the way for healing and rebuilding. In the midst of his confession, I caught glimpses of genuine remorse in my stepfather's eyes. It was a glimmer of humanity amidst the chaos, a recognition of the irreparable damage he'd caused. Although forgiveness felt distant, it was this small spark of remorse that offered a faint possibility of redemption. The silence that followed his confession was deafening, each of us grappling with the magnitude of the truth that had been revealed. The room became a sanctuary of mixed emotions, heartbreak, anger, and the flicker of hope that emerged from the ashes of betrayal. In that moment, we collectively acknowledged the need for change, for a new beginning. The stepfather I once knew had forever changed, but perhaps with time, he could find a path to redemption. The journey ahead would be arduous, but we were determined to confront the consequences of the affair and rebuild our lives with newfound strength and resilience. As the weight of his confession settled, we found ourselves standing on the precipice of a new chapter, a chapter of self-reflection, forgiveness, and the arduous task of rebuilding shattered trust. The stepfather's confession was both an admission of guilt and a catalyst for change as we prepared to embark on a journey of healing and growth as a family. The revelation of my history teacher's involvement in the affair had added another layer of complexity to the already tangled web of betrayal. As the days passed, I couldn't help but wonder about the impact of this revelation on her life and the remorse she carried within her. Driven by a mix of curiosity and a desire for closure, I sought another meeting with my history teacher. We met in a quiet cafe, away from prying eyes, where we could delve deeper into the repercussions of the affair and seek understanding amidst the chaos. Her face bore the weight of sorrow as we sat across from each other, the air thick with unspoken words. I voiced my concerns, questioning the choices she had made and the consequences that had rippled through our lives. I needed to know her perspective, to understand the motivations behind her actions. With a heavy heart, she shared her regret and remorse, her voice tinged with sadness and self-condemnation. She revealed the vulnerability that had drawn her into the affair, acknowledging the immense mistake she had made and the pain it had caused everyone involved. In that moment, I realized that she, too, was grappling with the aftermath of her actions. The burden of guilt weighed heavily upon her as she came face to face with the consequences of her choices. She acknowledged the damage inflicted upon my life, as well as the tarnishing of her own professional integrity. Together, we confronted the depth of her betrayal and the sorrow that stemmed from it. It was a shared moment of vulnerability, where walls were dismantled and honesty prevailed. We both carried the weight of her mistake, acknowledging the pain and the need for redemption. As we parted ways, a sense of understanding lingered. Forgiveness still seemed distant, but we found solace in the shared acknowledgement of the pain we had caused one another. In that moment, the teacher-student dynamic was forever transformed, replaced by a bond of brokenness and the potential for growth and forgiveness. The road to redemption would be long and arduous for my history teacher, as she grappled with the consequences of her actions and sought to rebuild her life and regain the trust of those she had hurt. But in that moment of shared sorrow, we both recognized the importance of self-reflection, remorse, and the potential for redemption. As I left the cafe, a renewed sense of compassion washed over me. The betrayal had been exposed, and while forgiveness was still a distant horizon, the shared sorrow had become a foundation for potential healing. It was a step toward understanding, both for myself and for my history teacher, as we embarked on separate paths of growth and redemption, forever changed by the weight of our actions. In the aftermath of the revelations and confrontations, our lives had been transformed. The fractures in our family had become more apparent, but with the truth exposed, we were able to embark on a journey of healing and transformation. Together, my mother, myself, and even my history teacher sought strength in one another. We recognized the importance of support, empathy, and open communication as we navigated the difficult path ahead. It was a journey that would test our resilience, but also provide an opportunity for growth and redemption. As the days turned into weeks, we engaged in family therapy, seeking guidance and tools to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. The process was challenging as we each confronted our own pain and emotions, but it also offered a glimmer of hope for a brighter future. With time, forgiveness began to find its way into our hearts. It was a gradual process marked by moments of vulnerability, honest conversations, and a commitment to understanding one another's perspectives. We recognized that forgiveness did not excuse the actions or erase the pain, but rather, it allowed us to release the burdens that held us captive. Our collective journey toward healing extended beyond our immediate family. My history teacher, too, sought redemption and healing. She took responsibility for her actions and the impact they had on her professional role and the trust of her students. Through counseling and personal reflection, she sought to rebuild her life and restore her integrity. In the midst of this journey, we also sought solace in the support of friends and extended family. Their unwavering presence and understanding provided a lifeline during the most challenging moments. Their love and encouragement fueled our determination to overcome the pain and emerge stronger as individuals and as a family. As time passed, the wounds slowly began to heal, leaving scars as reminders of the pain we had endured. The journey was far from easy, marked by setbacks and moments of doubt. But through our collective resilience, open communication, and a commitment to growth, we started to find light amidst the darkness. We realized that healing was not a linear process, but rather a series of steps forward and occasional steps back. The journey demanded patience, understanding, and self-compassion. It required us to acknowledge our own vulnerabilities and to extend grace to one another as we rebuilt the bonds that had been broken. With every passing day, we grew stronger. Our family began to redefine its identity, shaped not only by the betrayal and pain, but also by the resilience and love that emerged from the ashes. We learned to treasure the moments of joy, to celebrate the small victories, and to cherish the connections that remained unbroken. The journey to healing was a testament to the human capacity for growth and transformation. It was a reminder that even in the face of betrayal and heartache, we had the power to rise above, to forge new paths, and to rebuild our lives with newfound strength and resilience. As we embraced the future with open hearts and a commitment to honest communication, we stepped into a new chapter, one marked by healing, forgiveness, and the pursuit of a brighter, more authentic life.